ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करश्रयं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிரக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்மஹே जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्री पार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषनभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഇതിനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ട തോറു പ്രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the class. Okay, we'll just do a review of 23. Gayatri, can you do one half? And Kritika, can you do one half?
Padikitma.
Yeah, you started. Gayatri, you there today?
Yes, ji.
Okay.
Which Dasakam, ji?
23.
23.
Yeah.
Dasakam 23. दक्षचरितं चित्रकेतु उपाख्यानं च प्राचेस्ततस्तु भगवन्नपरो हि दक्षः त्वत्सेवनं व्यतीत सर्गवृत्तिकामः आविर्बभूवित तथा लसतस्तबाहुः तस्मै वरं तदिततां च वधूमसिग्नीम् तस्यात्मजास्तवयुततमीस पुनः सहस्रं श्रीनारदस्य वससा तव मार्गमाबुः नैकत्र वासं ऋषये स मुमोच शापं भक्तोत्मसवृषिरनुग्रहमेव मेने.
Kritika, the second line, second word, vachasa, cha sound, okay.
Vachasa,
Yeah, okay.
Srinaradasya Vachasa.
Yep.
Okay. Sashtya tado duhit srubish srujada kulaukan tauhitra sunurutat tasyas vishwarupaha त्वत्स्तोत्र वर्मित मजाभय निन्द्रामजौ देवत्वदीय महिमा खलु सर्वजनैत्रः
Last word.
सर्वजैत्रः प्राक्षूरशेन विशेष किल चित्रकेतुः पुत्राग्रही नृपतिरङ्गिरासः प्रभावात् लब्ध्वैकपुत्रमद तत्र हते सपत्नी सङ्गैकी अमुह्य तव माययासौ.
The first line, first word, Sena Vishaye.
Shena Vishaye Kila Chitraketuku. Tam Naradastu Samamangi Rasadayaluhu Samprapya Davadu Patarshya Sudasya Jivam Kasyami Putra Iditasya Gira Vimoham Tyaktva Tvadarshana Vidau Nrupatim Niyoyungata.
The third line, first word is sound. Kasyasmi.
Kasyasmi putra iditasya giravimoham tvaktva tvadarshana vidau nrupatim niyuyungatta.
And the last one, nyayungta.
Nyayungta.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I think you can do this.
Stotram cha mantramapi narata doshalatva toshaya sheshavapusho nanute tapasyan vidyadharadipatitam sahi saptaratre lapyap kundamadiranva bhajat bhavantam tasmai mrinala tavalena sagasrashirna rupena pattanuti siddhaganavritena प्रादुर्भवञ्चरतो नुतिपिस्प्रसन्नो तत्त्वमनुगृह्य तिरोधतातम् त्वद्भक्तमौलिरतशोऽपि च लक्षलक्षं वर्षाणि हर्षुलमना भुवनेषु कामं शङ्काभयन् गुणगणं तव सुन्दरीभिः शङ्कातिरेकरहितो ललितं चचार.
The third line, the last word, Sundari Bihi. There's a visarga there, okay?
Sundari Bihi.
Yeah.
Sankabayan gunaganam tava sundari bihi adyanta sankavilayaya bhavat pranono nonam sarubhyagirimapya mahat samaje nishankamankakrudavallabam angarcharim tam shankaram parigasannu maya abhishepem निस्सम्प्रमस्त्वयम् अयाचित सापमोक्षो वृद्धासुरत्वमुप गम्य सुरेन्द्रयोति भक्त्यात्मतत्त्वगतनैः समरे विचित्रं सत्रे सत्रो रविब्रह्ममपास्य कथं पथं ते त्वत्सेव नेन तिथिरन्द्रवदोद्यतापि तान् प्रत्युदेन्द्रसुहृतो मरुतो बिलेपे तुष्टाशयेऽपि सुपदैव भवन्निषेवा त्वमव मां भव नालयेश. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
The last line, first word, tattadrishas.
Okay. Tattadrishastvamava mam bhavanālayesha. Okay.
So let's go to 24. So we finished up to stanza 5 in 24. So we'll continue. So maybe first half today, Ravi, you can be a student, and Shashi Rekha, you can be a student. So second half, Venkat Garu, you can be a student, and Bhuvana, you can be a student. So we'll start with stanza 6, Dasakam 24. अधीतेषु श्रेष्ठं किमिति परिपृष्टे ततनये भवद्भक्तिं वर्यामभिगदति पर्याकुलधृतिः गुरुभ्यो रोषित्वा सहजमतिरस्येत्यभिविदन् वदोपायानस्मिन् व्यतनुत भवत्पादशरणे. So we were seeing in the previous class on Prahlada Charitram, right? That was ongoing. So where Hiranyakashipu, when Prahlada was born, right? Hiranyakashipu went and did the tapas. We saw that. He asked for certain boons. We saw that. And then Prahlada is born. And then we were kind of going through what is happening with Prahlada, right? So in the stanza 6, so one day, so when Prahlada was very small and he was under the tutelage, right? Or we saw Shukracharya's sons, who were also the gurus for Hiranyakashipu and everybody who's in the kingdom and everything. So one day, Hiranyakashipu calls Prahlada over. And then, you ask your child, right, what have you been learning in school? So Hiranyakashipu calls him and says, what have you been learning, right? What is the greatest thing that you have actually learned? So at the time, Prahlada, like we saw earlier, how he was actually blessed because he had got the Upadesham directly from Narada when Prahlada was in the womb of his mother. So he then starts off by saying that, anybody who recognizes that this body is permanent, is always going to be in misery. So they have to realize that the spirit is permanent, the body is temporary, and you should not get attached to it. So he kind of gives a lecture to Hiranyakashipu, right, and says that when the appropriate time comes, you should renunciate everything that you have. You should actually go to Vanaprastha, you should go to the forest, and eventually you should take up sannyasam. So he kind of gives a long lecture to Hiranyakashipu. So when Hiranyakashipu hears this, right, like they say nowadays, right, they say, too much information, right? He says, Prahlada, you actually got too much information, and there's too much intelligence that you have, which actually spoiling you, right? He says that because you're going to the school, you're learning all these things from school, and you're coming and telling me this, right? He says this is all inappropriate, right? This is all not the right things. So when he says it, of course, he's the boss, right? So he calls all these teachers and says, what are you guys teaching him? So the teachers say, look, it's not our fault. We are teaching the right things. You go ask all the other kids, they will all tell us the right message. Your son somehow has a natural inclination. Even though we are not teaching him any of this, he somehow seems to have learned all of these things, right? And then he says, he's only 5 years old, right? So there's nothing to worry about it. It is just like small kids sometimes tell things. So they say, ignore it, right? So that way with that, they just kind of ignore him. However, Hiranyakashipu feels that something is wrong. So he says, you know what, I should actually nip this in the bud, right? So he says, I should actually think of a way to stop this guy from progressing further in this way. So, adhitheshu sreshtham kimiti, pariprishteta tanaye, bhavat bhaktim varyam abhigadati. If you want to break it, that varyam abhigadati, paryakula dhritihi. अधीतेषु श्रेष्ठं किमिति परिपृष्टे ततनये भवद्भक्तिं वर्यामभिगदति पर्याकुलधृतिः.
Oh, so should I start?
Yeah, ninge saastunga mama.
Adideshu shreshtam kim adideshu shreshtam kimiti prashtadadanaye bhavat bhaktim varyam abhigadati paryakulatridhi gurubhyo roshidva.
First two lines. First two lines.
Oh, okay. Adideshu shreshtam kimiti prashtadadanaye bhavat bhaktim varyam abhigadati paryakulatridhi.
And the Ravi in the first line la pariprishte tatanaye.
Pariprishte tatanaye. Okay.
अधीतेषु श्रेष्ठं किमिति परिपृष्टेऽथ तनये भवद्भक्तिं वर्यामभिगदति पर्याकुलधृतिः
And the first line because after kimiti there is a comma. Okay, shreshtam kimiti.
Okay. I remember seeing you 2 commas. Okay. अधीतेषु श्रेष्ठं किमिति परिपृष्टेऽथ तनये भवद्भक्तिं वर्यामभिगदति पर्याकुलधृतिः
Gurubhyo roshitva, comma, sahaja matirasyettya bhividan. You can't quite break it. So sahaja matirasyettya bhividan, comma, vadopayan asmin vyatanuta, comma, bhavat pada sharane. Gurubhyo roshitva sahajamatirasyettya bhividan badhopayanasmin vyatanuta bhavat pada sharane.
Gurubhyo roshidva sagajamadiraske abhividan vadhopayanasmin yatanuda bhavat padachara sarane. Gurubhyo roshidva sagajamadiraske abhividan vadhopayanasmin yatanuda bhavat padasarane.
The third line, the last word, mati rasyetya, ya sound has to come. Mati rasyetya bhividan.
Madirasyet abhividan.
Abhividan vara because madi rasyeti abhividan. The T and A becomes kya then.
Madirasyeti abhividan.
Yeah.
गुरुभ्यो रोषित्वा सहजमतिरस्येत्यभिविदन् वधोपायानस्मिन् व्यतनुत भवत्पादशरणे गुरुभ्यो रोषित्वा सहजमतिरस्येत्यभिविदन् वधोपायानस्मिन् व्यतनुत भवत्पादशरणे
7. सशूलैराबिद्धः सुबहुमतितो दिग्गजगणैः महासर्पैरष्टोऽपि अनशनगराहारविदुतः गिरीन्द्रावक्षिप्तोऽपि अहः परमात्मन्नै विभो त्वहि न्यस्तात्मत्वात् किमपि न निपीडाम् अभजत्. So when Prahlada then instructs Hiranyakashipu about the 9 types of bhakti, he says, what are the 9 ways one can get devotion? So this could be like saying things, whatever we are chanting is a method of devotion. Just Shravanam, hearing something is a devotion, right? And then doing offerings is a devotion. Doing service to the Lord is a devotion. Anyway, he describes all of these 9 things. So Hiranyakashipu realizes that, this boy is going out of control. So although he's only 5 years old, right, at this point, like Dhruva, so he says, you know what, I need to nip him, I need to get rid of Prahlada right now. So what he does is, he tries various things. So first, he starts with, Shulai Shulai, Shula means the thing, the trident, right? So with the trident, he's getting poked several times. Nothing happens. Then Matita Diggaja Ganaihi. So with all this trampled with a herd of elephants, so he's actually put in a place where the bunch of elephants are let loose, and then the elephants try to trample him. Nothing happens. Maha Sarpair Dashta. So by really poisonous snakes, he's actually put in a cage with poisonous snakes where the snakes actually bite him. Again, nothing happens. Then next he starts starving him, like not giving him food. He's able to survive that. Then he's actually given Gara Ahara Vishutaha. Then he's given poisonous food. Again, nothing happens. Then Girindra Vakshiptopi. He's thrown from a really high mountain. So no matter what Hiranyakashipu does, Prahlada remains unaffected because he knows there is nothing. If God is if I'm destined to die, if that's what Bhagavan wants, that's what is going to happen, right? So he's always thinking about the Lord, and that is why Dhruva and Prahlada have such unflinching devotion, right? That's why they're the greatest, because even when a small thing comes, we get upset about it, right? And then we go complain saying, I'm doing all these prayers, right? Why are you giving me all this trouble, right? We immediately start questioning that, right? Prahlada doesn't do that, right? That's why he's the greatest of devotees. That's why when he calls, Bhagavan is going to come, right? So he goes through all these things, but absolutely nothing happens. He remains committed. He doesn't change. And then he continues praying to the Lord. Sa shulaira biddaha, comma, subahu matito diggaja ganaihi. So put a visarga and comma at the end of that line. Gaja ganaihi. Next line on top of that maha, there is a ir. So you remove that ir. That becomes a visarga earlier. Maha sarpair dashtopi. So here we're going to break it, because otherwise it'll become very hard to say that line. So the pya that is there, we're going to break it into p and a. So maha sarpair dashtopi, and then a comma. Then the next line becomes anashana garahara vidutaha. Anashana garahara vidutaha. Sashulaira biddaha subahumatito diggajaganaihi mahasarpairdashtopi anashanagarahara vidutaha.
Rajeshji,
Now,
and what is the meaning of Anashana Garaha Vidutaha?
okay, so anashana is without food. Gara
Okay.
ahara is poisonous food.
Okay.
So it's both.
Thank you.
Sasurairaviddas Diggajaganehi Maga Sarpaidashtobi Anasanagara Haravitutaha.
Ravi, in the first line, la shulera biddaha, we'll put a visarga and comma there. First line.
Viddaha, okay. Susulaira Viddaha.
Correct.
Susulaira Viddaha Subahumarido Diggajaganaihi Maga Sarpaidashtobi Anasana Haravitutaha.
सशूलैराविद्धः सुबहुमथितो दिक्कजगणैः महासर्पैर्दष्टोऽपि अनशनगराहारविधुतः सशूलैराविद्धः सुबहुमथितो दिक्कजगणैः महासर्पैर्दष्टोऽपि अनशनगराहारविधुतः
Girindra Vakshiptopi. Again, same thing. That pya that is you're seeing there, we'll break it up into p and the a. So Girindra Vakshiptopi, comma. Ahaha. Ahaha is like, what a wonder, right? So like that. So ahaha Paramatmannayi vibho, comma. Tvai nyastatmatvat, comma. Kimapi na nipidam abhajata. Nipidam is like suffering. So absolutely he didn't have any suffering. Girindra vakshiptopi ahaha paramatmannai bhibho tvahinyasthatmatvat kimapi na nipidam abhajata.
Girindra Vakshiddovi Aha Paramatmannayi Vivo Tvayi Nyastyatmatvat Kimavina Nividam Vachata. Girindra Vakshiddovi Aha Paramatmannayi Vivo Tvayi Nyastyatmatvat Kimavina Nividam Vachata.
गिरीन्द्रा
Sorry. The first word, Girindrava or Girindravi?
Girindra vakshiptopi.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, vakshi.
गिरीन्द्रावक्षिप्तोऽपि अहः परमात्मन्नयि विभो त्वयि न्यस्तात्मद्वात् किमपि न निपीडामभजत गिरीन्द्रावक्षिप्तोऽपि अहः परमात्मन्नयि विभो त्वयि न्यस्तात्मद्वात् किमपि न निपीडामभजत.
Stanza 8. Tata shankabishtaha sa punarati dushtosya janako guruktya tadgehe kila varuna pashayistamarunate guroschasannidhye sa punaranugan daityatanayan bhavat bhaktes tattvam paramamapi vijnanamashishat. So the two teachers who are Shukracharya's sons, like they go and tell Hiranyakashipu, don't worry, our father Shukracharya is going to come in a few months or sometime. We just have to somehow contain Prahlada till then, because no matter what they do, he's not giving up his prayers. So they say what we'll do is we'll prevent him from escaping. So say we'll tie him in the school, right? We'll tie him in the school so he won't escape. And then once Shukracharya comes, we'll then take care of Prahlada, because they are not, Hiranyakashipu is not able to get rid of Prahlada. So anyway, they tie him in the school. Now what happens is all the other students who are there, who are learning other things. So Prahlada somehow is able to influence everybody, right? So he actually teaches them that Bhavat Bhaktes Tattvam. He talks about the greatness of devotion towards you, oh Bhagavan. He teaches that because he's directly learned from Narada, right? He's already enlightened. So he teaches this to all the students, to the extent that all the students also now start repeating whatever Prahlada is telling. So they keep telling that, what, the God, Bhagavan is there. We should all be worshipping Bhagavan. Everything is happening because of him. He's the greatest. He's the one who's the creator. He's the one who controls everything. So they start talk. All the teachers also talk about it, when all the students also start talking about it. So this now begins to offend all the teachers. So tatash, to put the ish sound instead of the visarga, tatash shankavishtaha, comma, sa punarati dushtosya janako, comma, guruktya tadgehe, comma, kila varuna pashais tamarunat. ततशङ्काभिष्टः स पुनरतिदुष्टोऽस्य जनको गुरुक्त्या तद्गेहे किल वरुणपाशैस्तमरुणत्.
तदसङ्काविष्टः सदसङ्काविष्टः स पुनरधिदुष्टोऽस्य जनको कृत्या तत्केहे किल वर्णपाशैस्तं मरुणत्. तदसङ्काविष्टः स पुनरधिदुष्टोऽस्य जनको कृत्या तत्केहे किल वर्णपाशैस्तं मरुणत्.
ततः शङ्काविष्टः स पुनरतिदुष्टोऽस्य जनको गुरोक्त्या तत्केहे किल वरुणपाशैस्तमरुणत्. ततः शङ्काविष्टः स पुनरतिदुष्टोऽस्य जनको गुरोक्त्या तत्केहे किल वरुणपाशैस्तमरुणत्.
गुरोश्चासान् निध्ये, double न, गुरोश्चासान् निध्ये, comma, स पुनरनुगान् दैत्यतनयान्, comma, भवत् भक्तेस्तत्त्वं, comma, paramamapi vijnanam ashishat. If you want to say it that we break it, you can break it as Dhamma. Vijnanam ashishat. गुरोश्चासान्निध्ये स पुनरनुगान् दैत्यतनयान् भवद्भक्तेस्तत्त्वं परममपि विज्ञानमशिषत्.
गुरोश्चासान्निध्ये सपुनरनुगान् दैत्यदनयान् भवद्भक्तेस्तत्त्वं परममपि विज्ञानमसिषत्. गुरोश्चासान्निध्ये सपुनरनुगान् दैत्यदनयान् भवद्भक्तेस्तत्त्वं परममपि विज्ञानमसिषत्.
गुरोश्चासान्निध्ये स पुनरनुगान् दैत्यतनयान् भवद्भक्तेस्तत्त्वं परममपि विज्ञानमशिषत्. गुरोश्चासान्निध्ये स पुनरनुगान् दैत्यतनयान् भवद्भक्तेस्तत्त्वं परममपि विज्ञानमशिषत्.
That's a night. पिता शृण्वन् बालप्रकरमखिलं त्वत्स्तुतिपरं रुषान्धः प्राहैनं कुलहतकस्ते फलमिति बलं मे वैकुण्ठः तव च जगतां चापि स फलं स एव त्रैलोक्यं सकलमिति धीरोऽयमगधीत्. So when all the children of the Asura clan started also singing about Narayana, started preaching about Narayana, So at this time, the teacher said, you know what, it's beyond our control. So they bring them back to Hiranyakashipu. They said, we cannot take your son anymore with us, because not only are we able to convert him, he's also messing up all the other boys in school. So he said, you keep your son with you. They all come back. Now Hiranyakashipu has already tried killing Prahlada so many times. We saw all that right earlier. So Hiranyakashipu now comes to Prahlada in the court. He brings him in, and then he asks him a few questions because he's so angry and frustrated. He says, he calls Prahlada and he says, tell me this, right? You are a traitor to my race. Because you are like Kula Hataka. You are like going to be destroying my entire Kulam, because you don't behave like the son of a Daitya. You don't seem to be following any of my principles. It's like you are completely taking our whole ancestry in a different direction, right? So you see, you are a Kula Hataka. So he says, I want you to tell who is the source of your strength. So he says, all this thing that you're able to survive, no matter what I do, you're not dying, you're getting all this information and knowledge. He says, who is the source of your strength? That's the one question Hiranyakashipu asked. So Prahlada beautifully replies saying, he says, oh father, the one who's the source of my strength is also the source of your strength. He says he's also the source of strength for everybody in this world. There's only one person who is the source of strength for everybody. Same one who's my source, he's also your source. He's also the source of strength of everybody who is actually present here as well. He says without him, everybody will cease to exist. He is the only reason why everybody is existing. So anything which is moving, anything which is immoving, anything which is great, anything which is insignificant, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by that one person. That is the supreme person who's actually giving me strength. He says, so give up all these demonic activities that you're actually doing, and you please learn to surrender to that Lord, because there's nobody which is greater than that Lord. That's what Prahlada very beautifully says. Saeva Trailokyam Sakalamiti. He says there's not one person in the entire 3 worlds, which is the 14 worlds, who's not controlled by this one supreme Lord. He says that supreme Lord is also the source of my strength. So Pita Shrunvan Bala Prakaram Akhilam, Tvat Stutiparam, Rushandaha, put a F, Rushandah Prahainam, Kula Hataka Kaste Balamiti. Pita Shrunvan Bala Prakaram Akhilam, Tvat Stutiparam, Rushandah Prahainam, Kula Hataka Kaste Balamiti.
Pita Shrunvan Bala Prakaram Twatsudiparam Rushanta Prahainam Kulahataka Kaste Balamiti. Pita Shrunvan Bala Prakaram Twatsudiparam Rushanta Prahainam Kulahataka Kaste Balamiti.
पिता शृण्वन् बालप्रकरमखिलं त्वत्स्तुतिपरं रुषान्धः प्राहेणं कुलहतकस्ते बलमिति पिता शृण्वन् बालप्रकरमखिलं त्वत्स्तुतिपरं रुषान्धः प्राहेणं कुलहतकस्ते बलमिति.
Balam me Vaikuntaha. So that is there. Put a visarga comma. Vaikuntaha. Tava cha jagatam chapisa balam, sa eva trailokyam sakalamiti, dhiroyam agadit. Balam me vaikuntaha, tava cha jagatam chapisa balam, sa eva trailokyam sakalamiti, dhiroyam agadit.
Balam me Vaikundaha, Tava Sajagadam Sabisa Balam, Saeva Trailokyam Sakalamiti, Tiroyam Agadid. Balam me Vaikundaha, Davacha Sagadam Sabisa Balam, Saeva Trailokyam Sakalamiti, Tiroyam Agadid.
फलं मे वैकुण्ठः तव च जगतां चापि सबलं स एव त्रैलोक्यं सकलमिति धीरोऽयमगदीत. बलं मे वैकुण्ठः तव च जगतां चापि सबलं स एव त्रैलोक्यं सकलमिति धीरोऽयमगदीत.
Uncertain. Are kwasau sakala jagadhatma haririti prabhinde smastambham chalita karavalo diti sutah atah paschad vishnu nahi vaditumishosmi sahasa kripatman vishwatman pavanapuravasin hridayamam. So Hiranyakashipu says, so Prahlada, so you are saying there is somebody who's more supreme than me, who's much more stronger than me, and you're saying he's the energy or the source of strength for everybody. And you're saying both for moving items and for inanimate objects, right? So he says that means that person should be present everywhere. Prahlada says, yes, he's present everywhere. Hiranyakashipu says, I don't see him. You keep talking about this one person, but I'm not able to see that person. How do I know this person exists? Right? You could just be making up these stories, because he says, if I cannot see that person, and if you're not able to bring that person in front of me, he says, I'm going to chop your head off. He says, I'm not going to attempt for others to kill you. I myself am going to kill you. So with that, Hiranyakashipu takes up his sword and tells Prahlada, I want that Lord, that person who you're talking right now in front of me. Right? And he asks, where is it? So Prahlada says, he's there everywhere. So Hiranyakashipu says, easy in this pillar, because he's standing in the court next to the pillar. Prahlada says, he's in this pillar. He's there anywhere you want. So Hiranyakashipu takes his sword, and then he says, I'm going to break this pillar open. And if I don't see this Lord, I'm going to chop your head off. So with that, he goes and with his fist, he goes and hits the pillar. So here Bhattaripan ends this Dashakam. He says, Ata Paschad Vishnu, oh Guruvayurappa, oh Vishnu, after this, what happens? I'm not able to talk about it right now, because he's going to talk about it in the next Dashakam. He says, Kripatman, you are the one who's most merciful. Vishwatman, one who is there everywhere. O Lord of Guruvayur, please eradicate all my ailments. With this, 24 comes to an end. So, Are Kwasau Kwasau.
Sorry, I have a question. When you said Sukracharya, is he Sukrin, like one of the Navagraham that we...
Yeah, and the Shukracharya, he is the Guru.
Guru for just the Ashuras, or
Yeah,
was he
Asura,
Guru?
yeah.
Thank you.
So Are Kwasau. The Kwasau is a Kaha Asau. Kaha Asau means very easy, very easy. That's what it is. So Kwasau, comma, Sakala Jagadatma Haririti, comma, Prabhinde Sma Stambam, comma, Chalita Karavalo Ditisutaha. Are Kwasau, Sakala Jagadatma Haririti, Prabhinde Smastambham Chalita Karavalo Ditisutaha.
Are kwasau sakala jagadatma haririti prabhante smastambam salita karavalo didisudah. Are kwasau sakala jagadatma haririti prabhante smastambam salita karavalo didisudah.
Is it Prabhinte or Prabhante?
Prabhinte.
Okay. Are kwasau sakala jagadatma haririti prabhinte smastambham chalita karavalo diti sutah. Are kwasau sakala jagadatma haririti prabhinte smastambham chalita karavalo diti sutah.
Atah, put a F, Atah Paschad Vishnu, comma, Nahi Vaditum Ishosmi Sahasa, comma, Kripatman Vishwatman, comma, Pavanapura Vasin Mridayamam. Atah Paschad Vishnu Nahi Vaditum Ishosmi Sahasa, Kripatman Vishwatman, Pavanapura Vasin Mridayamam.
Hari Pashat Vishnu Nahi Vaditumi Sosmi Sagasa Kribatman Visvatman Bhavana Puravasin Hridayamam. Hari Pashat Vishnu Nahi Vaditumi Sosmi Sagasa Kribatman Vishvatman Bhavana Puravasin Hridayamam.
Ravi, the third line, first word, Atah. Atah Paschad.
Third
line, first word.
Atah Pashat Vishnu.
Yeah, okay, come on.
I thought that's what I said. Okay.
अतः पश्चाद् विष्णो न हि वदितुमीशोऽस्मि सहसा कृपात्मन् विश्वात्मन् पवनपुरवासिन् मृडय माम् अतः पश्चाद् विष्णो न हि वदितुमीशोऽस्मि सहसा कृपात्मन् विश्वात्मन् पवनपुरवासिन् मृडय माम्
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Come to 25. 25 is Narasimha Avatara Varnanam. It's a very beautiful chapter. It's also a little bit of a tough chapter, so we can take some time going through the words there. But I can tell you one thing: this becomes people's most favorite chapter. Like every time when we have Parayanam, people fight over who wants to read this, right? So that is how much people love this, because the chapter has so much energy in it, right? Because of the avataram that is taking place there. So when we left off, at the time Hiranyakashipu is asking where everything is, and then he takes his sword in his hand, and then with his fist he's going and hitting against the pillar. That's where we left in that previous thing. स्तंभे घट्टयतो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आगूर्णज्जगदण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तवा भूद्रवः श्रुत्वायं किल दैत्यराजहृदये पूर्वं कदाप्यश्रुतं कम्पः कश्चन सम्पपात चलितोऽप्यम्बोजभूर्विष्टरात्. So when Hiranyakashipu strikes at that pillar, so instantly at that time, he hears a terrible sound, a very loud sound. Karnau Sama Churnayan. It's like breaking the eardrums of everybody. That loud a noise he actually hears when he breaks open the pillar. And there's a roar which is actually coming out of that pillar. The sound which nobody has heard before. Purvam Kada Pyashrutam. He has never heard such a sound previously in his life, right? And the sound is so high, so loud, that it says the entire vessel of Brahmandam is beginning to tremble. It is heard in all the 14 worlds. The entire Brahmandam is trembling to the extent that even Amboja Bhur Vishtarar, Amboja means one who's born out of the lotus, which is Brahma. Even Brahma is shaken from his seat because the loud sound is so loud, and the roar, the sound which nobody has heard before. So when this happens, Hiranyakashipu is immediately very shaken, because this is like a sound which everybody is like suddenly hearing this when he hits over that pillar. Stambhe Ghattayato Hiranyakashipoho, Karnau Samachurnayan, put a in, Churnayan. Next line you will have two nas, so that will go away. It will become a. Agurnaj Jagadanda Kunda Kuharo, Ghoras Tava Bhudravaha. स्तंभे घट्टयतो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आगूर्णज्जगदण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तवा भूद्रवः.
स्तम्भे घट्टयदो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आगूर्णज्जगद्दण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तवा भूद्रवः. स्तम्भे घट्टयदो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आगूर्णज्जगद्दण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तवा
भूद्रवः.
स्तंभे घट्टयतो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आघूर्णज्जगदण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तव भूद्रवः. स्तंभे घट्टयतो हिरण्यकशिपोः कर्णौ समाचूर्णयन् आघूर्णज्जगदण्डकुण्डकुहरो घोरस्तव भूद्रवः.
The second last line, last word, Ghorastava Bhudravaha.
Okay, I have tava, sorry. Okay.
Shrutva yam kila daitya raja hridaye, purvam kadapyashrutam, kampaha, put a ich sound, kampah kaschana sampapata, chalito pyambhoja bhur. So say that together. Chalito pyambhoja bhur vishtarat. Shrutva yam kila daitya raja hridaye पूर्वं कदाप्यश्रुतं Kampah kaschana sampapat chalitopyam bhoja bhurvishtarat.
श्रुत्वायं किल दैत्यराजहृदये पूर्वं कदा भयश्रुतं कम्पः कश्चन सम्पपाद सलिलोऽप्यम्बोजपूर्विष्टरात् श्रुत्वायं किल दैत्यराजहृदये पूर्वं कदा भयश्रुतं कम्पः कश्चन सम्पपाद सलिलोऽप्यम्बोजपूर्विष्टरात्
श्रुत्वायं किल दैत्यराजहृदये पूर्वं कदाप्यश्रुतं कम्पः कश्चन सम्पपात चलितोऽप्यम्भोजभूर्विष्टरात् श्रुत्वायं किल दैत्यराजहृदये पूर्वं कदाप्यश्रुतं कम्पः कश्चन सम्पपात चलितोऽप्यम्भोजभूर्विष्टरात्.
So every time I teach this, right, I'm always reminded of one funny incident that happened. So when I was learning this is back in early 90s, right, when I was in Bombay, and we had this class in our house. So there was one old uncle who was there, probably 60 or something. At the time he was old because I was, in my teens, right? So I don't know how old he was. So anyway, so he used to come. So one day he was telling that in Chembur in Mumbai, so when he was coming back at night one time, bunch of people came and stopped him and asked him for money, right? Some thugs, right? So he looks like a very like a Vedic person. He also chants Vedas and everything. So when somebody comes, he immediately starts up with saying Sthambe Ghattayato Hiranyakashipo Karnau Samachurnayan. And when he chants this, the people that he says the people just ran away because they had no idea what he was saying. They thought he was putting some curse on them, and they just got super scared and ran away. So he always says, always remember this stanza will always come and help you, because this is Narasimha himself coming out, right, of the pillar. So anytime you are in any kind of a trouble, or any kind of you're afraid of anything and you want to call Narasimha, you then call Narasimha, he'll come out of the pillar, right? But you should also be brave to see him when he comes, because we'll see how he is. Stanza 2. Daitye dikshu visrishta chakshushi mahasambhrambhini stambhata sambhutam namrigatmakam namanujakaram vapusthe vibho kim bhishanameta vyudbhranta chitte sure vispurjaddavalograroma vikasat vashmasramajrumbhatha. So this to prove to Prahlada that, like we said, when everybody approached Narayana and saying, you please come and help us out from Hiranyakashipu, he says, when my devotee calls me, I will come. So when the time was apt and Prahlada said he's there, and then Hiranyakashipu wanted to test it, the Lord made sure he was there everywhere, and then he came out of that pillar just to prove that Prahlada is right, right? So when Hiranyakashipu hears this sound, he has no idea where that sound is coming from, right? But when the pillar opens, then he sees a form which he has never seen before. The previously he had never heard that sound before. Now he sees a form which he has never seen before, and he's wondering, how is this form coming out of the pillar, and what is this creature which has actually come in front of me? Because this is na mrigatmakam, so it is not in form of an animal. Na manujakaram, nor is it the form of a human. So it is a combination of both an animal and a human mixed into one, which nobody has seen before, such a form. So because of that, he is bhishanam, he's like completely terrified. And also at the same time, he's wondering, he's also amazed, saying, what is this I've never seen before, right? And this form, which Bhattacharya describes very beautifully over the next couple of stanzas. But first, he starts off by telling that it's a big, massive sized person you have to imagine, right? It's not a small one. It's a massive sized person who's coming in, who's actually much bigger than all of them. And it's got white, sharp hair all over the body, and then it's coming up with a roar. That's how he first starts, and he goes on to describe how it is later. So Daitye Dikshu Visrushta Chakshushi, Mahasambhrambhini, Stambataha is there, put a plus, put a is and put a plus, Stambata Sambhutam, coming out of the pillar, Na Mrigatmakam, again, Na Manujakaram, again, Vapuste Vibho. Oh Lord, you took that form, which is neither a human nor an animal. We are putting the commas only here so that you can enjoy what it is telling, right? The description of the Lord. So, Daiti Dikshu Visrishta Chakshushi Mahasamrambhini स्तम्भतः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विभो
दैत्येदिषु विसृष्टचक्षुषि महासंभ्रम्पिनि स्तम्भतः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विपो दैत्येदिषु विसृष्टचक्षुषि महासंभ्रम्पिनि स्तम्भतः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विपो
दैत्ये दिक्षु विसृष्टचक्षुषि महासंरम्भिनि स्तम्भस्थः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विभो दैत्ये दिक्षु विसृष्टचक्षुषि महासंरम्भिनि स्तम्भतः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विभो. Can you repeat that, please? I not able to get the tune.
You know what it is? धैत्ये दिक्षु विसृष्टचक्षुषि महासंरम्भिनि स्तम्भतः सम्भूतं न मृगात्मकं न मनुजाकारं वपुस्ते विभो
Thank you.
किं किं भीषणम् एतत् अद्भुतमिति कम द्युद्भ्रान्त चित्ते सुरे कम विस्फूर्जद् धवलोग्र रोम विकसत् वर्ष्मा समाजृम्भथाः. So that line is continuous. किं किं भीषणमेतद् अद्भुतमिति व्युद्भ्रान्तचित्ते सुरे विस्फूर्जद्धवलोग्ररोम विकसत् वर्ष्मा समाजृम्भथाः.
किं किं भीषणमेतदद्भुतमिति व्यत्प्रान्तसिद्धे सुरे विस्फुर्ष्यद्धवलोग्ररोम विकसत् वश्मा समाजृम्पदाः किं किं भीषणमेतदद्भुतमिति व्युत्प्रान्तसिद्धे सुरे विस्फुर्ष्यद्धवलोग्ररोम विकसत् वश्मा समाजृम्पदाः
किं किं भीषणमेतदद्भुतमिति व्युद्भ्रान्तचित्ते सुरे विस्फुर्जद्धवलोग्ररोम विकसद् वर्ष्मा समाजृम्भथाः किं किं भीषणमेतदद्भुतमिति व्युद्भ्रान्तचित्ते सुरे विस्फुर्जद्धवलोग्ररोम विकसद् वर्ष्मा समाजृम्भथाः.
Rajesh ji,
Ah.
அந்த விஸ்பூர்ஜத் தவலோக்ர ரோமவா அது
Correct.
the third
Yeah.
line
Yeah. Vispurjad dhawalogra roma vikasad varshma.
Varshma. Okay, Samaj Rumbatalya. Samaj
Chumbataha.
Rumbadaha. Okay, thanks.
All right, we just switch. I think I had Venkat Garu and Bhuvana, right? Yeah. Stanza 3. Tapta swarna savarna dhurna dadirukshaksham तथा केसर प्रोत्कंप प्रणिकुंबितांबरमहो जियात्तवेदं वपुः व्याप्त महादरी सखमुखं खड्गोग्रवल्गन्महाजिह्वा निर्गमदृश्यमानसुमः दंष्ट्रायुगोढामरम्. So next two stanzas, but describes the form of Narasimha. He says, Jiyat, my namaskarams to you, O Narasimha, who has a form, right? So you have to imagine this form, a massive creature or somebody standing in front of you. First of all, he starts with his eyes, saying his eyes is like resembling molten gold. So when you melt gold, that yellow color, dark yellow color that is coming, that's how the eyes are, right? Because it's the eyes of a lion, right? So it's kind of having the dark yellow color eye. Then he, of course, has a huge mane because a lion has it. So the face itself is big, but the mane, which is the hair, which is actually coming outside of the face, is even bigger than that. So that is kind of engulfing the entire face as well. His mouth is open like a wide cave because he's roaring. So when he has his mouth open, you can see the deadly teeth which are inside. Tongue, which is actually dropping out of the mouth. He says the tongue itself is razor sharp. So when you look at it, it looks like somebody's holding a sword in their hands or in their mouth. That's how massive the tongue is and sharp it is. And when you look inside, you see this massive molars, because the lions have molars because they eat meat. So it has massive molars which are actually out there. The ears were very stiff and big ears that he actually had. And even the nostrils, because even the lion, when you look at it, the nostrils are also massively big. So just like how the mouth was big like a cave, even the nostrils were big, actually cave. And then his jaws were like, completely open, exposing the molars. And when you looked at it, Hiranyakashipu and everybody out there were like absolutely trembling, because it's like a massive body coming and opening its mouth, showing its molars and emitting a roar. So that's the form that Hiranyakashipu is seeing. He's saying, my namaskarams to that form of you, which is like this. And he continues in the next one also. Sapta swarna savarna ghurna dhati rukshaktam, comma, tata kesara, and then put a plus. Protkampa pranikumbitambaramaho, that's one word. Pranikumbitambaramaho, comma, jiyat tavedam vapuhu. Tapta swarna savarna ghurna dati rukshaksham satake sara protkampa pranikumbitambaramaho jiyat tavedam vapuhu.
நான் இப்ப கண்டினியூ பண்ணும்
இல்ல
வேற ஓகே.
तप्त स्वर्ण सवर्ण घूर्ण दधि वृक्षाक्षं सटाकेसर प्रोत्कंप प्रणिकुंबितांबरमहो जीयातवेदं वपुः. तप्त स्वर्ण सवर्ण घूर्ण दधि वृक्षाक्षं सटाकेसर प्रोत्कंप प्रणिकुंबितांबरमहो Jiyatavedam vapuhu.
I can tell you that after Rukshaksham in the first line there is a comma, okay, and then after Sata Kesara it comes together to the second line, okay.
Tapta swarna savarna ghurna dati rukshaksham sata kesara protkampa pranikumbitambaramaho jiyatavedam vapuhu. Tapta swarna savarna ghurna dati rukshaksham sata kesara protkampa pranikumbitambaramaho jiyatavedam vapuhu.
Vyatha, so it and ta. Vyatha, vyapta, next word. Mahadhari sakha mukham, comma. Khadgogra valgan maha, and then put a plus. And then the next line comes together. So Khadgogra valgan maha jihva nirgama drishyamana sumaha damshtra yugodhamaram. That's one word. Damshtra yugodhamaram. Damshtra is like the claws or the fangs or the teeth. Vyapta mahadari sakhamukham khadgogravalgan maha jihva nirgama drishyamana sumaha damshtra yugodhamaram.
Vyapta mahadari sakhamukham khadgogravalgan maham jihva nirgama drishyamana samaha damstrayugodamaram. Vyapta mahadari sakhi mukham Vyapta mahadari sakhamukham khadgogravalgan mahadhyuhman nirgama drishyamana samaham damstrayugodamaram.
Vyapta mahadari sakhamukham khadgogravalgan mahajihva nirgama dushyamana sumaha damstrayugodamaram. Vyapta mahadari sakhamukham khadgogravalgan mahajihva nirgama dushyamana sumaha damstrayugodamaram.
Stanza 4. उत्सर्पद्वलिभङ्गभीषणहनु तत्त्वस्तवीयस्तरग्रीवम् नीवरदोषतोद्गतनखः क्रूरांशुदूरोल्बणम् व्योमोल्लङ्घि घनाघनोपमघन प्रध्वान निर्धाबितस्पर्धालुप्रकरम् नमामि भवतस्तन्नारसिंहं वपुः. So namami or namaskarams to that form of yours, which is Narasimham, which is in the form of a Narasimha, which is a half man, half lion. So we are doing a salutations to the form of the Lord in this, where he's continuing the descriptions, saying, the chin. So lion's kind of chin is kind of non-existent because the mane is kind of covering everything. But the chin, he says, has folded skins, which is kind of showing showing a more fearful appearance. He says your neck is very stout. It's very short, but it's very stout and very fat, but short neck. And then the chest is actually very broad because it's a massive sized creature. So it's got a human form. So the rest of the body is like a human, right? So it's got like a very wide chest. However, it's got tapering waist. So it's kind of, for somebody who's very fit, if you look at it, they have very broad shoulders, but actually very narrow waist, which is how it was. A very narrow waist as well. And then the arms, he had several arms. So in each of those arms, the claws were there. So humans do not have claws. But because he's a lion, so he had 4 arms. But in those arms, he actually had claws also, which is coming out of it, which were very sharp because there were like kind of rays coming out of it. And of course, in each of the arms, he had the standard things which Narayana carries. He had the Shankh, Chakram, Gada, Padmam were there in each of the 4 hands. He was carrying that as well. But more importantly, he's emitting a very terrifying roar. So that roar is what is actually terrifying everybody because it's the noise coming out, which they are all not able to bear. And then this form standing in front of them. However, Bhattaripat says, my salutations to that form of yours, which is in this way. So, Utsarpat, Balibhanga, Bhishana, Hanu. Some books have Hanum. If you have a Hanum, remove that im. Some books may have it. Hanu, comma. Hrasva Staviyastara. So Hrasva Staviyastara, put a plus. Grivam, and then a comma. So 1 comma after Hanu in the previous line. Then Hrasva Staviyastara Grivam, comma. Pivara Doshatodghata Nakha. So some of these words you cannot break it. So Doshatodghata Nakha Kruramshu Durolbanam. Utsarpad Balibhanga Bhishana Hanu Krasvastaviyastara Grivam Pivara Doshatodghata Nakha Kruramshu Durolbanam.
उत्सर्पवलिभङ्गभीषणहनु ह्रस्वस्तवीयस्तरग्रीवं पीवरदो शतोद्गतनक क्रूरांशुदूरोल्बणम् उत्सर्पवलिभङ्गभीषणहनु ह्रस्वस्तवीयस्तरग्रीवं पीवरदो शतोद्गतनख Kruransudurolbanam.
When you go to that first line, first word, Utsarpat, there's the it sound there. Utsarpat Balib.
Utsarpadvalibhang.
Sorry. The first line, is that Hrasvas or is it Hasvas?
sound.
Hrasvas.
Hra. H-R-A. Hra.
Yeah. Hrasvas. Right. Okay, thanks.
उत्सर्पद्वलिभङ्गभीषणहनु ह्रस्वस्थवीयस्तरग्रीवं पीवरदोषतोद्गतनखत्क्रूरांशुदूरोल्बणम् उत्सर्पद्वलिभङ्गभीषणहनु ह्रस्वस्थवीयस्तरग्रीवं पीवरदोषतोद्गतनखक्रूरांशुदूरोल्बणम्
Vyomolanghi, comma. Ghana ghanopama ghana. Pradvana nirdhavita. Put a plus again. Spardhalu prakaram, and then a comma. So 1 comma after Vyomolangi, then 1 comma after Spardhalu prakaram, comma. Namami bhavatas tan narasimham vapuhu. Vyomolangi घनाघनोपमघनप्रध्वाननिर्धावितस्पर्धालुप्रकरम् नमामि भवतस्तन्नारसिंहं वपुः
व्योमोल्लङ्घि घनाघनोपमघन प्रध्वाननिर्धावित स्पर्धालु नमामि भवतत् नारसिंहिं वपुः
तन्नारसिंहम्.
तन्नारसिंहं वपुः.
Now make it clear, after Vyomollanghi and Prakaram in the next line there is a comma, okay?
Okay. व्योमोल्लङ्घि घनाघनोपमघन प्रध्वाननिर्धावित स्पर्धालुप्रकरम् नमामि तन्नारसिंहिं वपुः.
And that line again, Bhavatas.
भवतः, okay. भवतः तन्नारसिंहिं वपुः.
व्योमोल्लङ्घि घनाघनोपमघन प्रध्वाननिर्धावितस्पर्धालुप्रकरम् नमामि भवतस्तन्नारसिंहं वपुः व्योमोल्लङ्घि घनाघनोपमघन प्रध्वाननिर्धावितस्पर्धालुप्रकरम् नमामि भवतस्तन्नारसिंहं वपुः.
That's a fine. Noonham Vishnurayam Nihanmyamumitim Bhramyad Gadabhishanam Daityendram Samupadravantamadrita Dorbhyam Pratubhyamamum Biro Nirgalitota Khadgapalakau Grinnan Vichitra Shraman Vyavrinvan Punarapapata Bhuvana Grasodyatam Twamaho. So when Hiranyakashipu sees this form, he says, who could this be? So he's thinking, there's nobody else who's capable of coming out this way. This is something which I have not seen before. He says, because Prahlada keeps telling this Narayana is, the supreme power, maybe it is Narayana himself who's actually come in this form, right? Even when Hiranyaksha saw the form of Varaha, he says, why am I going to fight an animal? That's what even Hiranyaksha saw. So even Hiranyakashipu is also thinking, how is he coming in this form of an animal? And how can he actually kill me, right? How can he fight me in this form? So thinking like this, he begins to go and attack the Lord. So here it says very beautifully in Bhagavatam, it says that just like how a moth flies into the fire, he says that's how it was when Hiranyakashipu is rushing towards Narayana. Because the Narayana is like a fire, he's massive in size, he's yellow in color in the form of Narasimha. And Hiranyakashipu is so small compared to that form that he's somehow trying to rush towards the Lord and then get hold of him. However, the Lord kind of holds him with his two hands, with his two arms, and somehow Hiranyakashipu slips, because you will see this in Krishna Avataram also. First, he'll always give the opponent a chance to kind of escape, right? So Hiranyakashipu escapes and thinks that somehow he'll be able to slip out all this, and this kind of is going on, and everybody is watching, right? The entire universe is watching, the gods are watching, because this Avataram is happening here right now. Everybody's watching as Hiranyakashipu begins to fight. So Noonam Vishnurayam Nihanmya Mumiti, Bhramyat Gada Bhishanam, Daityendram Samupadravantam Adhrita. You can't break that first part. Samupadravantam Adhrita, Dorbhyam Pritubhyamamum. Noonam Vishnurayam Nihanmya Mumiti Bhramyat Gada Bhishanam Daityendram Samupadravantam Adhrita Dorbhyam Pratubhyamamum.
नूनं विष्णुरयं निहन्यमुमिति भ्राम्यद्गदाभीषणं दैत्येन्द्रं समुपाद्रवन्तमधृताः दोर्भ्यां पृथुभ्याममुम्.
That second line, Adritaha, if it is there, you can remove it, because Dha is coming later, so you can remove that Visarga.
Okay. नूनं विष्णुरयं निहन्यमुमिति भ्राम्यद्गदाभीषणं दैत्येन्द्रं समुपाद्रवन्तमधृता दोर्भ्यां पृथुभ्याममुम्.
नूनं विष्णुरयं निहन्यमुमिति भ्राम्यकदा दैत्येन्द्रं समुपाद्रवन्तमधृता दोर्भ्यां पृतुभ्याममुं नूनं विष्णुरयं निहन्यमुमिति भ्राम्यकदाभीषणं दैत्येन्द्रं समुपाद्रवन्तमधृता दोर्भ्यां पृतुभ्याममुम्
Biro nirgalitotha, comma, khadga phalakau grinnan vichitra shraman, and then put a plus, vyavrinvan, then a comma. So one comma after nirgalitotha in the third line, then after vyavrinvan in the fourth line. Punarapapata bhuvana grasodhyatam twamaho. Biro nirgalitota khadgaphalakau grinnan vichitra shraman vyavrinvan punarapapata bhuvana grasodhyatam twamaho.
Rajesh ji, and the Viro Nirgalitota Kadga Balake Nirga.
Okay, I'll just change it to palakau. Some books are palake. Yeah.
Okay.
So, palakau.
Okay, thanks.
वीरो निर्गलितोऽथ खड्गफलकौ गृह्णन् विचित्रश्रमान् व्यावृण्वन् पुनरापपात भुवन ग्रासोद्यतं त्वामहो वीरो निर्गलितोऽथ खड्गफलकौ गृह्णन् विचित्रश्रमान् व्यावृण्वन् पुनरापपात भुवन ग्रासोद्यतं त्वामहो
वीरो निर्गलितोऽथ खड्गफलकौ गृह्णन् विचित्रश्रमान् व्यावृण्वन् पुनरापपात भुवनग्रासोद्यतं स्त्वामहो वीरो निर्गलितोऽथ खड्गफलकौ गृह्णन् विचित्रश्रमान् व्यावृण्वन् पुनरापपात भुवनग्रासोद्यतं त्वामहो.
Stanza 6. Bhramyantam ditijadamam punarapi prodgrihya dhurbhyam javate dvare toryuge nipatya nakharan vyutkaya vaksho bhuvi nirbhindannadi garbha nirbharagalat raktambu bhaddhotsavam payam payamudairayo bahujagat samhari simharavan. So when Hiranyakashipu escaped from the hands of Narasimha, he thought, you know what, I should be able to somehow escape out. This should be easy. And then he starts showing all the tricks he has, which is he starts running on the ground, he starts flying in the air, he starts doing all these things to figure out how to actually escape from Narasimha. And then he thinks of, like, why should I be afraid? Because I have this boon, right? Like, nobody can kill me with, inside or outside, during day or night, in the sky or the earth. Asuras, reptiles, nobody should be able to kill me. Anything with a living or an inanimate object. He says, I should not be worried about it. So he then starts jumping around and trying to fight. At that time, when the appropriate time comes, then at that time, Narasimha then grabs hold of Hiranyakashipu. And then when the transition is happening between towards the evening, which is at that time, when it is neither day nor night, at that transition point, the Narasimha then takes him and goes sits on the veranda or the doorway to the assembly, which is neither inside nor outside, puts him on his lap because he is neither on the ground nor is he flying. And then with his nails, he removes it because a nail, it grows, right? So it's a living thing. At the same time, the nail doesn't, when you cut off the nail, it doesn't have any life cells in it. So it is also considered a dead part. So that's why with his nails, then the Lord then tears open Hiranyakashipu, which is neither day nor night in that transition time, holding him in his on his lap. Then Narasimha then rips open Hiranyakashipu there. And then he emits out and roar. So that's the main thing of Narasimha Avataram is the sound that keeps coming, which scares everybody out. So with a roar, he then rips open Hiranyakashipu. So Bhramyantam Diti Jadamam, comma, Punarapi Prodgrihya Dorbhyam Javate, comma, Dware Thoru Yuge. You can kind of say it together. द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य, comma, नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि भ्राम्यन्तं दितिजादमं पुनरपि प्रोद्गृह्य दोर्भ्यां जवाते द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि
भ्राम्यन्तं दितिजाधमं पुनरपि प्रोद्गृह्य दोर्भ्यां जवात् द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि भ्राम्यन्तं दितिजाधमं पुनरपि प्रोद्गृह्य दोर्भ्यां जवात् द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि
भ्राम्यन्तं दितिजाधमं पुनरपि प्रोद्गृह्य दोर्भ्यां जवात् द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि.
And Bhuvana, the first line diti jadamam, after that there is a comma, okay, not after punarapi.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's put. भ्राम्यन्तं दितिजाधमं पुनरपि प्रोद्गृह्य दोर्भ्यां जवात् द्वारे तोरुयुगे निपात्य नखरान् व्युत्थाय वक्षो भुवि.
Nirbhindannadi garbha nirbhara galat raktambu. If you want to break it, the dra is coming there. If you're not able to say the dra in that one flow, you can break it into a id and a ra. So galat raktambu badhotsavam, comma, payam udairayo, comma, bahu jagat samhari simharavan. निर्भिन्दन्नदि गर्भ निर्भर गलत् रक्ताम्बु बद्धोत्सवं पायमुदैरयो बहुजगत् संहारि सिंहारवान्
निर्बिन्दन्नदिगर्भ निर्भरगलद् रक्ताम्बुबद्धोत्सवम् पायमुदैरयो बहुजगत् संहारि सिंहारवान् निर्बन्धन् नदिगर्भ निर्भरगलद् रक्ताम्बुबद्धोत्सवम् पायमुदैरयो बहुजगत् संहारि सिंहारवान्.
We can go to that first line nirbhindan. Okay.
Rajeshri, அது சொல்றது one time nirbhara galera
இல்ல nirbhara. Okay, nirbhara. The next word galadraktambu. You can say it in two ways. One is if you are able to say the letter dra along that line. Galadraktambu. That's one way of saying it. If you're not able to say that, then it's galad raktambu bhaddotsavan, ra sound. So that id and ra becomes dra.
Oh, I have an extra ra.
Where do you have it?
I have nirbala galera raktambu galera.
No, it's galat raktambu. Okay, galat raktambu or galat draktambu. The dra sound will come there.
Thank you.
निर्भिन्दन्नदिगर्भ रक्ताम्बुबद्धोत्सवं पायमुदैरयो बहुजगत् संहारि सिंहारवान् निर्भिन्दन्नदिगर्भ रक्ताम्बुबद्धोत्सवं पायमुदैरयो बहुजगत् संहारि सिंहारवान्.
Stanza 7. त्यक्त्वा तं हतमाशु रक्तलहरी सिक्तो न मद्वर्ष्मणि प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं चाखाद्यमाने त्वयि भ्राम्यद्भूमिविकम्पिताम्बुदिकुलं व्यालोलशैलोत्करं प्रोत्सर्पत्खचरं चराचरमहो दुस्तामवस्थां ददौ. So you have to treat this you should treat this like how a lion behaves, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a half lion, half man. So when a lion kills something, you see that the claws of the lion is all filled with blood. When it eats, its mouth is all filled with blood. Its mane is covered with blood. He says that's how that scene is there. It is like a very gory scene that is there because Hiranyakashipu was ripped open essentially, and then there is blood all over Narsimha's face. His eyes are open and it is bright red and a bright yellow and red in color. He's showing full of anger that is actually there. And it was impossible for anybody to look at. And this is going to be explained very beautifully in the next couple of stanzas. But anyways, it's impossible for anybody to even look at that scene, right? To look at that form of Narsimha. And he's then, because he's a lion, he's now putting his tongue outside and then it's licking his face as well, right? Licking the blood that is there on his own face. So with this, and then what it says is he takes Hiranyakashipu is pretty much ripped open. So with that, when Narasimha is looking there and roaring, all the other soldiers, they still try to fight somehow because their master has been killed. But then everybody is gotten rid of with just the nails. That's the only weapon that is actually used here. Is everything is nails. So with this, he drives away all the other soldiers who was there. And this is creating, it says, a complete chaos all over the world, right? Like they show in movies, right? Suddenly all the rivers, the oceans start coming up, the mountains start bursting, volcanoes. He says the entire three world is in chaos because nobody has seen such a incarnation, such a ghoram incident happen, and everybody is really stunned. And we're going to see how everybody descends down, right? Brahma and Shiva, everybody is going to come next. So anyway, so with that, the terrifying scene is happening right now in the court of Hiranyakashipu. So tyaktva tam hatamashu, rakta lahari siktonna madvarshmani, short e at the end, siktonna madvarshmani, pratyutpatya samasta daitya patalim, chakadyamane tvayi, short e at the end. Tyaktva tam hatamashu rakta lahari siktonna madvarshmani, प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं चाखाद्यमाने त्वयि.
त्यक्त्वा तं हतमाशु रक्तलहरी सिक्तोन्मद्वर्ष्मणि प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं ख्याकाद्यमाने त्वयि.
Second Karu, that first line, siktonna, double na.
सिक्तोन्न. त्यक्त्वा तं हतमाशु रक्तलहरी सिक्तोन्नमद्वर्ष्मणि प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं चाखाद्यमाने त्वयि.
त्यक्त्वा तं हतमाशु रक्तलहरी सिक्तोन्नमद्वर्ष्मणि प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं चाखाद्यमाने त्वयि. त्यक्त्वा तं हतमाशु रक्तलहरी सिक्तोन्नमद्वर्ष्मणि प्रत्युत्पत्य समस्तदैत्यपटलीं चाखाद्यमाने त्वयि.
Bhamyat bhumi vikampitam bhudikulam, vyalola shailotkaram, protsarphat khacharam characharamaho, dustam avastam. If you want to break it, that ma, dustam avastam dhadau. Bhamyat bhumi vikampitam bhudikulam vyalola shailotkaram protsarpat khacharam characharamaho dustam avastam dhadau.
भ्राम्यद्भूमि विकम्पिताम्बुदिकुलं व्यालोलशैलोत्करं प्रोसत्सर्पत्खचरं चराचरमहो दुस्तामवस्थां दधौ. भ्राम्यद्भूमि विकम्पिताम्बुदिकुलं व्यालोलशैलोत्करं प्रोत्सर्पत्खचरं चराचरमहो दुस्तामवस्थां दधौ.
भ्राम्यद्भूमिविकम्पिताम्बुदिकुलं व्यालोलशैलोत्करं प्रोत्सर्पत्खचरं चराचरमहो दुस्तामवस्थां दधौ. राम्यद्भूमिविकम्पिताम्बुधिकुलं व्यालोलशैलोत्करं प्रोत्सर्पत्खचरं चराचरमहो स्थामवस्थां दधौ.
We'll do one stanza and stop. Stanza 8. Tavan mamsavapakara vapusham ghorantramalaadharam tvam madhye sabamiddakopamushitam durvara gurvaravam abhetum na shashaka kopi bhuvane dure stita bhiravah sarve sharva virincha vasavamukah pratyekamastoshata. So So Narsimha is now sitting in the, he now sits in Hiranyakashipu's throne. He's sitting in the throne and he has, it says, Thavan Mamsa Vapakar. So all the flesh and the fat and everything is on his body. Just like how a lion is. That's why this is a very, like, terrifying avataram, right? So if you've been to any Narasimha temple, there's one temple in Kerala place called Chenganur, which I have gone to, where they always have Narasimha covered with chandanam, right? Because it is like such a heat or it's a terrifying avatar. That's why I was saying Panagam Nevidam, because that's why we typically do that, because it's to calm things down. And even when you chant this chapter, right, you will kind of feel the heat, right, that is coming out when you chant the chapter, because such a powerful avataram this is. So he's sitting there in that assembly there, right, with this the fat and the meat and everything on him, to the extent that no one is willing to now step forward. And it says everybody has descended down to see the avatar. It says Brahma, Sarve, everybody, Sharva, Shiva, Birincha, which is Brahma. So Brahma, Shiva, Narada, and the peoples of the various demigods, right, from Siddhaloka, from Gandharva Loka, Vidyadhara, all Manus, everybody has assembled there. Nobody dares to step forward, right? Everybody is staying at a distance, and everybody comes and offers their respective prayers to them, to Narasimha, and then bows at a distance and moves away. Nobody is even willing to step closer to it. And even the associates of the Lord who are in Vaikunta who have come are telling, oh Lord, it's such a great avataram you have done. This is only to get a big, if you remember Jaya, Vijaya, who are born as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. So this avataram is to get them back to their original form. So with this avataram of yours, at least one janmam of theirs is done. And even they do the namaskarams, but nobody is willing to go forward. So Brahma then approaches Lakshmi Devi, who is there, and saying, can you please step forward to calm Narasimha? And she says, even I have never seen such a ghoram form of the Lord that is ever taken, right? Because the Lord is very shantam, and we'll see that towards the end. I don't want to reveal the plot here, but she says, I've never seen such a ghoram form of the Lord. She says, even I cannot step forward to calm Narasimha right now. So everybody's kind of staying at a distance and then doing their respective prayers here. Tavan Mamsa Vapa Karala Vapusham, Ghorantra Maladharam, Tvam Madhye Sabham Idha, if you want to break it, Sabham Idha Kopa Mushitam, Durvara Gurvaravam. So Venkat Garu, Bhuvana, just do one time, okay? We'll run out of time.
Sorry,
Tavan
is it
Mamsa Vapakarala Vapusham Ghorantra Maladharam Tvam Madhye Sabhamidha Kopa Mushitam Durvara Gurvaravam.
तावन्मांसवपाकराळवपुषं घोरान्ध्रमालाधरं त्वामध्ये समविद्धकोपवपुषं कोपमुषितं त्वामध्ये समविद्धकोपमुषितं दुर्वारगुर्वारवम्
तावन्मांसवपाकरालवपुषं घोरान्त्रमालाधरं त्वां मध्ये सभमिद्धकोपमुषितं दुर्वारगुर्वारवम्.
Abhyetum na shashaka
Sir.
kopi bhuvane, Dure.
Sorry, Rajesh. Sorry, Rajesh. Here for the second line, I have Rosha Mushitam. So should I change it to Kopa Mushitam?
It's the same, it means the same thing. So just change it to Kopa Mushitam to be consistent.
Thank
It's
you,
the
sir.
same thing. Abhyetum na shashaka kopi bhuvane, Dure stita bhiravaha, Sarve Sharva. First is a Sa, next is a Sha. Sarve Sharva Virincha Vasava Mukhaha, Pratyekam Astoshata. Abhetum na shashaka kopi bhuvane Dure stita bhiravah सर्वे शर्व विरिञ्च वासवमुखाः प्रत्येकमस्तोषत
अभ्येतुं न शशाक कोऽपि भुवने दूरे स्थिताभीरवः सर्वे शर्वविरिञ्च वासवमुखा प्रत्येकमास्तोषत
वासवमुखाः, there's a visarga there, okay.
वासवमुखाः प्रत्येकमास्तोषत
अभ्येतुं न शशाक कोऽपि भुवने दूरे स्थिताभीरवः सर्वे शर्वविरिञ्च वासवमुखाः प्रत्येकमस्तोषत.
Shri Krishna.
Rajeshri, sorry. Rajeshri, is it possible to finish this chapter or no?
It'll take another 10 minutes. Is everybody okay?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I didn't want to cut down on the explanation, so I thought I was thinking of finishing it, but sometimes it takes longer, right?
Right, right.
No,
Yeah.
I can take 10 minutes and let's finish it off, right?
Can we postpone it, please? I do have other things. We can do it nicely then, because you have to repeat the last line 3 times, I notice also, right?
Yeah.
If
That's fine.
Shashi, why do you want to finish it this time, just for continuity?
Because I'm not going to be here next week.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to India. Yeah.
We
can take 10 minutes. We'll just take 10 minutes one day today and we'll finish it, okay? Thanks.
Okay.
Stanza 9. भूयोऽप्यक्षतरोषधाम्नि भवति ब्रह्माज्ञया बालके प्रह्लादे पदयोर्नमत्यभये कारुण्यभाराकुलः शान्तस्त्वं करमस्य मूर्ध्नि समधाः स्तोत्रैरतोद्घायतः तस्या कामधियोऽपि ते नितवरं लोकाय चानुग्रहम्. So when absolutely nobody was willing to go near, or nobody dared to go near, right? Even Lakshmi Devi is like, I have never seen this. I don't want to step near the Lord right now. So Brahma says there is only one person who can calm the Lord, because who is the greatest devotee in the room? That's Prahlada. Says, so Prahlada, you are the only one who can calm. So you first go near Narasimha, and then you go do the namaskarams, because that is going to appease Narasimha. And Prahlada, if we had looked at any such form, I can guarantee you we would have run away. But Prahlada, being the greatest of devotee, had such confidence, saying that this indeed is the Lord's avataram, nothing is going to happen to me, because I am a devotee. So I should not be afraid of the Lord, right? So Prahlada then goes, and Prahlada goes. At that time, Narasimha completely calms down. And then what he does is he takes Prahlada on his lap and Karamasya Murdni Samadhaha. And then he places his hand on Prahlada's head, on his Murdni, on his head. When he places his hand on Prahlada's head, when the sparsham happens, immediately Prahlada gets all the knowledge. He's completely freed from all. Prahlada was already an exalted devotee. Now he's even more freed from all the material desires. He achieves all the knowledge that he actually wants, that he needs to have. And then he does a very amazing stuti for Narasimha. It is there in Bhagavatam, not in this, but he does a very amazing stuti to Narasimha, praising him. And then Narasimha asks him, what do you want? Right? Because he's adoring him. He's the greatest of the devotees. He says, what do you want? Prahlada says, I want nothing. I only want your devotion. Like we said, that's what even Dhruva said, right? That's the mark of an exalted devotee, is when the Lord comes and says, what do you want? He says, I only want more devotion towards you. So the Lord then blesses him, saying that you will continue to be the greatest of my devotee. And then he prays for Lokaya cha Anugraham. He's also praying for the welfare of the entire world. So Bhuyo Pyakshata Rosha Thamni Bhavati, Brahmagnyaya Balake Prahlade. So put a plus at the end of that line, and then after Prahlade put a comma. Padayor Namatya Phabaye, Karunya Bharakulaha. Just continue one time only. So Bhuyopyakshata Rosha Dhamni Bhavati Brahmagnyaya Balake Prahlade Padayor Namatya Phabaye Karunya Bharakulaha.
भूयोऽप्यक्षतरोषधाम्नि भवति ब्रह्माग्नया बालके प्रह्लादे पदयोर्नमत्यप्रभये कारुण्यभाराकुलः.
भूयोऽप्यक्षतरोषधाम्नि भवति ब्रह्माज्ञया बालके प्रह्लादे पदयोर्नमत्यपभये कारुण्यभाराकुलः
Shantastvam karamasya मूर्ध्नि samadhaha, comma, stotrair atodghayatah. You can break it at ra if you want. Stotrair atodghayatah. So put a visarga at the end of that line, comma. Next line, if you have a is at the beginning of that line, that goes away. Tasya kamadi yopi tenita varam, comma, lokaya chanugraham. Shantastvam karamasya मूर्ध्नि samadhaः स्तोत्रैरतोद्घायतः तस्या कामधियोऽपि तेनितवरं लोकाय चानुग्रहम्.
शान्तस्त्वं करमस्य मूर्ध्नि समदाः स्तोत्रैरतोद्गायतः तस्य कामधियोऽपि तेनितवरं लोकाय चानुग्रहम्.
शान्तस्त्वं करमस्य मूर्ध्नि समदाः स्तोत्रैरथोद्गायतः तस्या कामधियोऽपि ते निथवरं लोकाय चानुग्रहम्
That's it. एवं नाटितरौद्रचेष्टितविभो श्रीतापनीयाभिदश्रुत्यन्तस्फुटगीतसर्वमहिमन् अत्यन्तशुद्धाकृते तत्तादृङ्निखिलोत्तरं पुनरहो कस्त्वां परो लङ्घयेत् प्रह्लादप्रिय हे मरुत्पुरपदे सर्वामयात् पाहि माम्. So Bhattacharya says, while you were so scary that not one person approached you, he says, by your core nature, you are not an angry person, O Lord. You exhibited this anger because you had to get rid of Hiranyakashipu and you had to eradicate all these people. So you were just putting up a show because at the core, you are not an angry person. The Lord cannot be angry, right? He's beyond all of those things, right? So he was just exhibiting this so that, but a pure devotee like Prahlada, when he saw it, he was not worried about it. He was not afraid about it, right? So that was the point he was trying to make here. It says, it's also explained, it says in Tapaniya Upanishad. This is Narasimha Tapaniya Upanishad. This is another Upanishad. Even there it talks in detail about Narasimha Avatar. Even there it says Narasimha is not angry or that kind of a character, but he's portraying it that way, that Ghoram form, because that has to drive the Asuras away to make Hiranyakashipu scared. But in reality, the Lord is always Shantastvam. You're always a very calm and composed person, Lord. So this way, Prahlada Priya, the one who loves Prahlada, Hey Marutpurapati, Lord of Guruvayur, Sarvamaya Thahima, please eradicate all the diseases and the ailments I have. So, Evam Natita Raudra Cheshtita Vibho, comma, Shrita Bhida, and then put a plus. Shrutyanta Sputa Geeta Sarva Mahiman. You'll have double na there. First put a in Mahiman, comma. Next one becomes an a. Atyanta Shuddhakrite. एवं नाटित रौद्र चेष्टित विभो श्रीतापनीयाभिदश्रुत्यन्त स्फुट गीत सर्वमहिमन् अत्यंत शुद्धाकृते.
एवं नाटितरौद्रचेष्टितविभो सीतापनीयाभिधश्रुत्यन्तस्फुटगीतसर्वमहिमन् अत्यन्तशुद्धाकृते.
एवं नाटितरौद्रचेष्टितविभो श्रीतापनीयाभिधश्रुत्यन्तस्फुटगीतसर्वमहिमन् अत्यन्तशुद्धाकृते
तत्तादृङ् ing sound तत्तादृङ् निखिलोत्तरं पुनरहो कॉमा कस्त्वां परो लङ्घयेत् कॉमा प्रह्लाद प्रिय कॉमा हे मरुत्पुरपते comma again sarvamayat pahimam. So the last line you can put a 3 there because typically we'll say the last line 3 times. We just do one time today, but normally you say the last line 3 times. तत्ताधृन्निखिलोत्तरं पुनरहो कस्त्वां परो लङ्घयेत् प्रह्लाद प्रिय हे मरुत्पुरपते सर्वामयात् पाहि माम्.
तत्ताध्रङ्गनिखिलोत्तरं पुनरहो कस्त्वां परो लङ्घयेत् प्रह्लादप्रिय हे मरुत्पुरपते सर्वभयात् पाहि माम्.
After that, Prahlada Priya, because there's a comma, okay, in the last line.
Tat-
After Prahlada Priya, one comma, then after He Marutpurapati, one comma.
हे मरुत्पुरपते. Yeah.
तत्तादृं निखिलोत्तरं पुनरहो कस्त्वां परो लङ्घयेत् प्रह्लादप्रिय हे मरुत्पुरपते सर्वमयात् पाहि माम्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha Chandranandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam Kaladeshavadebhyam Nirmuktam Nityamuktam किलनिगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for staying extra 10 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.